Hey guys, this is Mike
And Joe,
from Deepwood Force of Will.
we're back again. You can't
Back
get rid of us.
again, baby.
Can't get rid of us.
Good. So, of course, we're back here talking about the top cards. We'll talk about the new set, but we're also going to, this time, instead of going through the whole thing and giving everything, star ratings or number ratings or whatever, we're just going to go over the top 10, because it saves time, saves our time, saves your time, and you just want to know what's the best, right?
And there's a lot of middling cards, so we didn't want to go through absolutely everything. We're not going over rulers, but we're probably going to talk about them because they kind of are the meta.
Yep, they are kind of the reason that you play your cards.
Yeah. But they won't be in the top 10 because that's not fair. Because obviously rulers have more impact than any single card.
Yep, and we're not talking about magic stones because the magic stones of this set suck.
They exist.
They do exist, that's true.
Anyway, I guess we can hop right into this.
Yeah, without further ado, let's go in with starting with number 10. Who's number 10, Ragnarok?
It is Exorcist Mage at the Academy.
Hey, so this card is a 1 light will for human wizard 400/400 with quick cast. It gains barrier as long as there's a +100/+100 counter on it, and if a resonator has been put into the field without being played from a hand, you remove it from the game instead.
Well, that seems like a powerful effect, Mike.
That seems like a really powerful effect, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I would really love to have a continuous version of Dawn of the Earth in play.
Sorry, actually a better version of Dawn of the Earth, because this actually stops things that are being played from anywhere but the hand as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this card's really, really good.
Yeah. It obviously has its place in the Orborozuki deck because you can get the +1/+1 counters on it. It gets barrier and it becomes big sticky.
Big sticky.
Yeah, and annoying to get rid of thing because it gets barrier and stuff. But in just particular matchups, it just completely blows out decks.
Yeah, so the big thing is that a lot of decks in the format right now, especially stuff that was around in Alice Origins, say even Melgus, Lenneth, Arla specifically just gets bodied by this card because you just put your strangers into play, or Lenneth puts her strangers in play, or puts the 12 protective deities into play. On this card, you just cast it in response, and you're just like, nope.
And the best part is, it is a dual-sided effect, so it's not even like those stranger decks even get any counterplay. They can't play this card in their deck.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. It's also nice. I like the fact that it's a symmetrical effect because it means that both players are playing, quote-unquote fair when this card comes in. But all in all, the card just does a lot for its cost. The fact that it's another 400/400 with quick cast is just obviously bonkers.
Yeah, it's got human. That's a great resonator tag.
Yeah, it really is. And hopefully, we've seen a lot of wizards because of this Academy thing. So hopefully we see more wizard support going forward.
But regardless of if we do, it's a really good card. Expect to see it in sideboards around everywhere and possibly some main boards.
Yep, for sure. So moving on to number 9.
Number 9. What do we got, Mike?
We got Mermaids Thunder Parasol.
Woo! It is a quick cast, 1-drop treasure. It deals 400 damage for each card in your hand to target J Resonator. Shuffle this card into its owner's deck as it resolves. That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. I found that out very quickly in draft. Well, sealed,
yeah.
But yeah.
Celeste is the main user of this card, and this is basically her answer to literally everything you put on the board in front of her.
Yep, exactly.
It's just a huge game, and it just does so much damage with the huge hand.
Yeah, having the huge hand effect, having, just something that recurs itself every turn if you're playing Celeste, but even without it, it's just quick cast removal in water that isn't just bouncing something to the hand. And I don't think we've seen that often. Maybe like the last time was technically Space-Time Anomaly, but that's a darkness card too.
And it costs a lot.
And it costs a lot. This thing is just really, really efficient for what it does. It shuffles itself back in, so it's actually recurring removal, which if you're playing like a tempo deck that draws a lot, you actually don't mind putting this back into your deck, really?
Very specifically, I think this is like the first way that water has a way to deal with J rulers, because
that's a big deal too.
There's very few ways for blue to deal with J rulers. I think it's literally just Space-Time Anomaly, and that's also the black card again.
Yep, exactly. I think this might be not only would it be the first, but it's also definitely, like, by leagues, if there's anything that does it, way more efficient.
Yep. Well, this card's really nice.
Yeah, expect to see it in as a 4 of in every Celeste deck, and if you're playing against just tempo water decks, it's gonna be there. This card's really good.
Yep. Draw weenies, definitely going in there.
Love draw weenies.
So that takes care of number 9. On to number 8.
At number 8, we have Injured Fox.
This is actually my favorite card from the set.
Yeah, I was originally... Joey and I went back and forth on this card. So, it's a 1 fire Resonator. It's a beast. It's a 700/700, and its end effect says, this card deals 700 damage to target Resonator you control. If that Resonator is still a legal target, produce fire.
Well, if there's any buffs that you can put on this card, and to get it over that mark, it becomes a huge tempo push because it's basically a 0 mana 7/7 that you can play very, very early. It's a beast, so it gets call to action synergies. My favorite, particularly, is probably putting it in Prisia and using it with friendship counters on the Regalia in order to get it above its initial 7/7 self-destruction button.
Yep, and my biggest thing was I also want to see it kind of get played in it's like a really greedy Oborozuki decks that want to cast their reveal the top card of your deck and give some counters based on that. The target itself, it doesn't die because it just got the +1/+1 counters, and then you produce red to do whatever you want. So there's a lot of weird little applications this card can get, but obviously beast synergy type decks are going to be really good, and this thing's just a really, really aggressively statted card.
Yeah, and even if it winds up like failing, you wind up getting that mana back anyway. Like, let's say they somehow cancel the whatever you're doing to give this thing the buff, you wind up getting the mana back because it still produces red after it dies.
Does it? I'm not sure if it does.
Yeah, as long as it was a legal target.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'd have to check with that.
Sure, but that's how we're going with it.
Yeah. So either way, card's just aggressively statted, aggressively made, essentially. So there's definitely some kind of application that can be done here.
Yep. That takes care of Injured Fox at number 8.
Yep.
Onwards to number 7.
At number 7, we have Wind Servant of Ragnarok.
It's a green deity. It's quick cast. Enter, produce 1 will of any attribute. If your ruler is Ragnarok, invading Dragon Lord, produce 3 wills of any attribute. Have any 1 attribute instead. You ever wanted to play a Sprout of the World Tree in your deck and have it activate immediately?
Here you go.
Yeah. Pretty good card. It's basically the only reason to play Ragnarok at this point, besides, having a ruler with 12 effects or whatever.
Yeah, close enough. Ragnarok, no, he's saying he has 7 effects if you look at him, what he's saying right now.
True. But this amplifies the best effect on Ragnarok, which is that instant burst of will that you get on your opening with Ragnarok, so having this in your opening hand is really, really good.
Yeah, essentially with this card and Ragnarok's ability, you can play a 5-drop out on turn 1, which is obviously very good. I'm not sure if there are any 5-drops really worth it right now, but if we see anything that's, a 5-drop that's worth it, it's going to be good.
Yeah, or maybe a 7-drop on 3 like Motoko.
Ooh, early Motoko sounds gross.
It is.
So yeah.
Nah, it's a pretty simple card, so there's not really much to go into with like its potential. It just does its thing and does it very well.
Ramp good.
Correct.
So moving on to number 6.
This is what actually caught us by surprise. Burning Rabbit Dash.
Yep, it's a fire for a chant. You put 300 fire beast resonator tokens with swiftness, and when this card is put into a graveyard from the field, it deals 200 damage to target resonator into the field.
So it's a very unassuming card, but having 3 3/3s is a lot better than just having a 9/9. Just because you get that, they need to have 3 blockers on 2.
Yeah.
That's if you're just playing it on curve.
And more bodies means just way more potential there.
Yeah. But if you put it into perspective with Priscia's friendship counters, this thing scales insanely quickly to the point where you're probably playing this over Super Beast Burning Rush, because it is actually that good at getting lethal on its own, and it's half the cost.
Yep. Another big thing for anybody who plays those Eternal formats, you're immediately going to think, oh, Wolf's Rain, and then just kind of write it off because Wolf's Rain never saw play. But Wolf's Rain removed the cards at the end of the turn, costed one more, and wasn't in an aggressive color. So this checks all those boxes. The fact that the rabbits stay on board after you cast this card is really, really significant, honestly.
Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff.
Yep, and stuff is always good in Force of Will.
Correct.
So, definitely something that we could see getting slotted into general aggro decks, but Persea's wide counter generating is really going to be a big step forward for this card.
Yep. You're probably going to see play with this card. I think it does depend on what decks wind up being in the format, but it does have its niches, and it has advantages over certain other cards.
Yep, exactly. So, fairly straightforward once we get past the Percy stuff, but the card is definitely going to be pretty interesting. So, moving on to our number 5 slot, we have Ominous Moon, the Lunar Sword.
It is a quick cast Black Chant. Quick cast, as an additional cost to play this card, remove 2 +1/+1 counters from an entity control. Destroy target J/Resonator. Players cannot chase with this card. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, woof. If you thought the Black Moonbeam and Flame of Battleworld were bad, here they are, together, better, and for half the cost.
Well, at least this one has a requirement, right? Right?
Right.
Well, if you're playing Mikage, this card actually has no, cost to it at all.
The cost is sack a Resonator.
Basically, yeah. Which you were going to do anyway.
Yep.
But being able to destroy a target J/Resonator and being unable to chase to it is a huge deal. Shaping up for what the format is, it's an extremely important effect if you're worried about playing against Lilius.
And if you're like us, you're worried about playing against Lilius.
Yes. And on top of that, if you're going to compare it to Black Moonbeam saw a plethora of play. The main weakness of Black Moonbeam was that it only target J Resonators, and that you can only use it once, basically, because you kill the J Ruler and that's it. This can still target Resonators, so it's still good after their J Ruler's dead, or you can just use it against, Resonator-based decks, and it's still good.
Yep. Card's just so much value all in one package. And it also says entity you control. You don't have to control creatures for this. You can have it on an addition. You can have it on your stones. You have it on your J Ruler. Like, you flip Oborozuki with a Memory of Atarakti on the board, and then it's gonna be a light darkness stone. You tap it for the darkness, you get the Ominous Moon. So you just meet Oborozuki, you kill something at instant speed, and you just have a 12/12 body. It's just both in Oborozuki and Mikake seems like it'd be really good. And then you also back it up with the fact that we have other cards that give +1/+1 counters from old formats too.
Yep, and they're good cards. So overall, this card just is going to find its way into many different decks, mostly control decks. It's probably the control card of the set.
Yep.
So,
well, it's the control darkness card of the set, but yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get in some heavier control soon.
True. Well, next up is number 4. Yep. And we got that boy.
That mischievous boy.
All to sing.
Yep.
He's an elf wizard with 2 green, quick cast, and he's a split card, so we'll go over the top 5 first. Quick cast, enter, prevent all damage that would be dealt by target J Resonator until end of turn. That's basically the Melfi effect without Torrent. And you can pay green, return this card to its owner's hand. You may pay green less to play cards named A Glimpse of the Prodigy until end of turn, which is the second half of him.
Yeah, I'll go over A Glimpse of Prodigy.
Go right ahead.
It's a quick cast chant, costs 3 green, and it just says cancel target spell or automatic ability.
Yeah, it's a bit above average for what you would expect from your typical 3 green cancel.
Yeah, It's about where you expect. Well, you kind of expect it because if we go off of like Exceed the Ancient Magic, that was green, green 1, and it just canceled a thing and drew a card if you control defeats thing. But this thing is a little more multimodal, so you get a little bit of that extra. Plus, you know, the bundling effect.
So what's nice about Alta Sing as a whole is that you can use it for tempo, first off, as a 5/7 on turn 2. You know, maybe use it to block something. It doesn't take damage from the thing it's going to be doing combat with, so it does a pretty good job of protecting your health total. Then later in the game, you wind up getting it back to use your cancel.
Yep. And having just the kind of like the pseudo Melfi effect on the front side with the enter with really, really good stats is kind of a big deal, honestly.
Yeah, it's... Of course, the power curve for Force of Will and 2-drops is a little bit up in the air right now. It's still going to be trading with a bunch of things on 2, whether they want them to or not.
Yep. One of the big things that you can kind of talk about is that this card also has a weird synergy where you can pay green to return it to its owner's hand, and you can do it again because returning to its hand isn't part of the cost.
Right.
And if you do that, you pay 2 green, and for the rest of the turn, your Glimpse of Prodigy costs 4 green less to play. So every single one of them is free until end of turn.
Which is really, really good. Good thing there's no cards that say that ability costs green less. Wouldn't that be a bit of a problem?
Haha, yeah, sure would be. I sure hope there's nothing like that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all to say Mischievous Boy at number 4.
Yep. Moving on to number 3.
Oh boy, I love number 3. What is it?
Kiki Celestis Partner. One of my favorite cards. Because look at that boy. Look at that bow tie.
What is it hanging on? We'll never know.
It's 1 blue for a beast. A 0/100. You prevent all non-combat damage that be dealt to this card. So sort of a pseudo Cheshire Cat. Enter, draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. A pseudo Cheshire Cat. And while this card is revealed from your deck by an exploration ability you control, you may play it without paying its cost.
Wow. That seems really nice. The
really
bottom
nice.
half of the card is Kiki's Exploration, which is quick cast for 1 blue. And it shuffles this card into your deck, then Exploration 4.
Which is also really good.
Yeah. Because having a Exploration 4, that's a... How many stones do you need to do that when you have Celeste?
You need 4 stones to do that with Celeste.
Right.
You're accelerating 3 turns for 1 mana.
Correct.
Oh, everything about this card is perfect.
It does so much for the Celeste deck. Like, honestly, without this card, I don't think Celeste is actually anywhere close to being a viable deck.
100%. And I think that's totally fine. Because if playing Celesta, the cute anime girl who likes treasures, means I can play this boy.
It's worth it.
This man's. Oh. I could gush about Kiki all day.
He's very lovely.
He's lovely. But we can't do it all day because we got to move on to number 2.
Yeah, how long can we really gush over a Cheshire Cat? Anyway, it's oh wait, what's this card? Alta Sing Secret Hideout. Huh. Green edition. Your J Resonator you control a barrier. Wow, that's really good. Oh wait, there's more. Tap. Produce green. Spend this will only to play activate abilities. A card named Alta Sing Mischievous Boy. You get. Oh wait a second. That's the thing we were talking about before.
Remember we were talking about that thing before with the activate ability being really, really strong.
Oh.
So, let's talk about Alta Sing's Secret Hideout on its most face value. Giving all your J Resonators barrier with no condition other than this card being on the field is crazy.
That is insane. We used to see cards like Wind Secluded Refuge C-Play, which was just like a one-time your J Ruler gains barrier. Or you would see cards like Zero's Circle of Protection, which was 2 white and only gained you barrier from 1 color.
That card was not 2 white, that was 1 white and 2 colorless. That card cost 3.
I don't believe you, I don't care. People still played that.
I know. And this card,
this is 1.
This card just does it all so much better and has upside.
So, if you're any bit curious about why this is number 2 on the list, what else do you need us to say? It's so good. Like, this is the kind of card that makes you want to run Addition Hate in your main deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of problematic with some of the more dangerous cards in the set.
I think
Speaking of some rulers.
Yeah, were you coughing at Lilius? Because I was coughing at Lilius.
Yes, definitely coughing at Lilius.
Okay, good.
Because if you can't interact with Lilius,
you die. Oh, God, what a disgusting card.
Yeah. Well, see how this goes. We're gonna see a lot of Addition Hate. There's some decent Addition Hate in this set. Just, you know, it's not a top 10 card, but oh well. Anyway,
but that's besides the point, because it's not the number 1 slot. Because the number 1 slot goes to
what could it possibly be? It could be anything.
Silmeria, Summoner of Spirits.
It is. Do we care about the top half? We don't. Really
we should go through it. It's a light 500 1000 with flying, so the stats are really good.
Yeah, the stats are way above average.
You can tap to remove X plus 100 counters from it to put a 0/0 Light Spirit Resonator token with flying, and X plus 100 counters into the field. So, you know, just once per turn, turn your counters into extra little guys. Not too shabby.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Well, why would I not want to be playing the 2-drop 5/10 flyer as a resonator? Well, the bottom half of the card is Lost Silence.
Oh.
Except it's white, so, you know, it's worse. But
yeah.
I don't know how you call Long Stone's worse. Okay.
This, for anybody uninitiated to older formats, Law of Silence has been banned for about 3-4 years now, I believe.
Yep. There were 2 different decks that made that card banned. One of them was Arlo TK. The other one was Fox.
Yep.
So, if there's any deck that doesn't care about, like, skipping your turn, well, everyone likes to skip your turn. We're just gonna skip your turn. How about that?
I just really hope that there aren't any light rulers that like to make sure that their combos don't get interrupted as they're literally building a board that cannot be broken for game. Oh, hello, Arla.
Yeah. There is one thing I should say, though. This card is slightly better than Law of Silence, because Law of Silence said neither player can play cards during the turn, can play spells during that turn. This card says your opponent only cannot play spells.
Oh. Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah, so you could prevent your opponent from doing anything while you do something, which is not in the spirit of Law of Silence.
Nope, this card has an upside to a card that's currently banned in Wanderer.
Yes, and banned for good reason.
Mm-hmm. So, are we excited for this to happen, especially because we also have Mana Dorks in Light again, too?
We have Light Mana Dorks, we have OTKs, we have... Well... No... Not excited for Law of Silence, but we're gonna deal with it.
I'm very excited for the turn where your opponent's like, okay, cool, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to wait for you to play your Ouroboros OTK, and then on your own untap step, you Dance of Spirits them, and then you OTK them.
Correct. Or, let's say you're waiting for that big Arla turn, they're about to God's Art, they're going to bring all their spirits into play. Before you're on tap, they do Dance of Spirits. So you have to preload your 4/4 that'll just get eaten by something easy that Arla can do, and then they can God's Art while you can't do anything. Like, good luck trying to counterplay literally anything.
Yep. If your opponent hits 2 light stones and you want to play cards, you have to think, can I afford to try and play cards and then not?
The good news is, if you don't know how this card works, like Law of Silence, if you try to cast something and your opponent casts this in response, you still get that thing. You just can't play more things.
Yep.
So it's not completely insane. Like Law of Silence might make you think it is, but it being locking someone out of it for a full turn is still ridiculous. So this is obviously number one.
Yep.
If anyone ever plays Solmaria, Summoner of Spirits as a Resonator, just shake their hand and walk away. Obviously, they're the better player.
Yep, clearly. I want to turn my counters into things. That's great, honey. Here, I'm going to make my opponent not play the game. Even hitting a Regalia deck on turn 2 with this thing so that they just can't play it is like
it just completely slows down their curve and their game plan.
Like, there's almost no downside for this card existing. I can't believe how good this card is. And it's got 4 light will symbols, so you can hit it with Obrazuki, you get 4 light counters to a thing. The synergies are just, like... the synergies are just stupid in this card.
It's too good. Best card of the set. Not even close. Like... Altisting Secret Hideout is like an 8 out of 10. This is a 12.
Yeah, honestly.
So that's that's everything that we want to talk about.
That's it. Thanks y'all for watching, and as Ragnarok said, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, he's a big fan of us, and you should be too.
Yeah, and he's also a big fan of Minha, which we also are.
Right, correct.
Oh man, Min's just been sending me a bunch of combos that he's been working on for Ragnarok, and I'm just like, you animal, you monster of a man.
It will be meta, only for Minha.
Yeah, he'll get the FTKs going, don't worry.
Alright, thank you all for watching.
Yep.
And this has been Joe.
And Mike.
From Deepwood, Force of Will.
We did that out of order this time, but that's fine.
It's a sign-off. We can do it backwards.
That's true, we can do it backwards. Perfect. Alright, see you everyone.
Peace.